Imagine standing at the edge of a vast construction site, every beam, every stone, every detail carefully placed by an unseen hand. You cannot yet see the full building, but you know something magnificent is being formed. Friends, today I want to remind you that God is at work in your life in just that way. Behind the scenes, in moments when you feel silent or forgotten, He is building something massive, something powerful, something eternal. Though the walls may not yet rise and the glory may not yet shine, the foundation is being laid with divine purpose and infinite love. This truth is not just a hopeful thought. It is the heartbeat of our faith. It calls us to trust beyond what our eyes can see and to believe in God's perfect timing when all feels uncertain. Today, as we journey together through this message, I invite you to open your heart and your spirit to the promise that your waiting is not wasted, your pain is not pointless, and your faith is being forged for a glorious purpose. Stay with me till the end, because what God is building behind the scenes will change everything you thought you knew about your life, your future, and His unending love for you. There are moments in life when everything feels quiet, uncertain, and hidden. We pray, we wait, and still there seems to be no answer, no shift, no breakthrough. It can feel as though heaven itself is silent, as if God has stepped away from the canvas of our lives. But this is a deep and holy misunderstanding. The truth is, God is not inactive. He is not absent. He is not overlooking the cries of His people. He is building. And He is building something massive behind the scenes, something eternal, something that cannot yet be seen, but will one day be revealed in all its glorious fullness. Think of a cathedral being built stone by stone. From a distance, it may appear as rubble, a worksite, even chaos. There is dust, noise, and confusion, but the architect has a plan. The builder knows the shape, the structure, the final beauty. Each nail, each beam, each stone has purpose, even when it does not make sense to the eye. Likewise, God is building your life, your purpose, your story with eternal precision. And often the most critical parts of the construction happen in silence, in hidden places, away from the public view. There are divine roots growing in the unseen, in the dark soil of surrender, trust, and obedience. Just as a mighty oak takes time to break through the earth, and longer still to grow into its full height, the things God is planting within us require patience and divine timing. The invisible work is the most vital work. Foundations are always underground. They are not glamorous, they are not applauded, but they are essential. Without them, the structure cannot stand. In the same way, God often takes us through seasons where the spotlight is off, where the path is unclear, because He is laying the groundwork for something weighty, holy, and lasting. When we look around and cannot see progress, we must remember that visibility is not the measure of God's activity. He does not need to prove His movements to us in order for them to be true. In fact, the most significant transformations often begin where no one is watching, when we are on our knees in quiet surrender, when we are fighting to hold on to faith, when we choose forgiveness in silence, when we worship even in uncertainty. These are the moments God cherishes. These are the bricks and mortar of the greater masterpiece He is constructing. In the story of Joseph, we see a life that looked broken, rejected, and forgotten, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, locked away in prison. Each chapter seemed to go from bad to worse. Yet behind each moment of darkness, God was aligning events, shaping hearts, and preparing a man to stand in a place of destiny that would affect nations. What looked like a long pause was actually divine preparation. The same is true for you. You are not forgotten. Your waiting is not wasted. Every hidden detail is part of a plan that stretches far beyond what you can see. God's silence does not mean His absence. His delays are not His denials, and His hidden work is often His most powerful. He sees what we do not. He works with eternity in mind. While we long for speed, He values strength. While we look for progress, He looks for depth. What He is building in you, around you, and through you may not yet be visible, but it is real, it is holy, and it is coming. Many times, what we call delay is not a sign of God's disinterest or denial, but rather a divine pause that carries great purpose. In our human nature, we often desire swift answers and instant results. We live in a world that celebrates speed, quick victories, and immediate satisfaction, but God does not operate on our schedule. His timing is not rushed by our impatience, and His silence is not a mark of rejection. Instead, His delays are often seasons of deep preparation, where unseen growth is taking place and divine alignment is unfolding in ways far beyond what we can comprehend. When we feel like we are waiting too long, it is easy to assume that God has forgotten us or that the promise will never come. But delay is not denial. Delay is a sacred space where God is strengthening us, refining us, and building within us the capacity to carry what He has planned. He is not only preparing the blessing for us, He is preparing us for the blessing. Just as a potter does not rush the clay but takes time to shape it, mold it, and fire it in the kiln, God takes His time to shape us for His glory. He knows exactly when we are ready and when the circumstances are ripe for what He has destined. If we received everything we asked for the moment we desired it, we might miss the deeper beauty and the lasting strength that come from being shaped through the waiting. The delay teaches us to trust. It teaches us to lean not on our understanding, but on His faithfulness. It stretches our spiritual muscles. It tests our character. It builds endurance. God is never interested in building shallow victories. He is interested in creating something that lasts, something that can stand the weight of destiny, something that will reflect His glory, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. The delay is often a time of divine alignment. There are people, places, and events that God is orchestrating that we cannot see. Just because we do not perceive the movement does not mean He is not moving. Heaven is never still when a child of God is praying in faith. Angels are being dispatched, doors are being opened, mountains are being moved, but all in God's perfect timing. What we see as a hold-up is often the very grace of God protecting us from stepping into something before its time. Consider the life of David. He was anointed king as a young man, yet he did not step into that role for many years. During that long delay, he was chased, threatened, hidden in caves, and tested over and over again. But it was in those years that God was shaping his heart, forming his character, teaching him humility, and preparing him to be a leader after God's own heart. The delay was not punishment, it was development. By the time the crown was placed on his head, he had the strength to carry it. This principle holds true for us as well. The dream may be real, the calling may be certain, but there is a holy process between the promise and the fulfillment. That process often involves waiting, stretching, and trusting. In that sacred delay, we are being built into people who can sustain the weight of the answer. God is not withholding, He is cultivating, and when the appointed time comes, what He has prepared will be far greater, deeper, and more beautiful than anything we could have imagined had it arrived on our timeline. Suffering and confusion are not signs that God has abandoned us or turned away. Rather, they are instruments in the hands of a divine craftsman who knows exactly how to bring beauty out of ashes and purpose out of pain. Though our natural reaction is to resist discomfort, the truth is that God often does His deepest, most transformative work through the very things we wish to escape. Trials and uncertainties are not wasted experiences. They are tools in God's workshop, carefully applied to refine, mold, and strengthen the foundation of our lives for something far greater than we can imagine. When we walk through seasons that don't make sense, when prayers seem unanswered and paths unclear, it is tempting to doubt, to question, and to fear. But these very moments are often signs that God is working at a deeper level than we can perceive. Confusion in the present does not mean chaos in the plan. What seems like disorder to us may be divine order in disguise. God's ways are not our ways, and His thoughts are not our thoughts. We see only fragments, but He sees the whole picture. While we long for comfort, He is building character. While we crave certainty, He is cultivating trust. Pain often strips away our illusions, our pride, and our sense of control. It brings us face to face with our dependence on God. In this raw and vulnerable place, we learn to cling to Him not because of what He gives, but because of who He is. The fire of suffering burns away the shallow and the temporary, leaving only what is pure, strong, and eternal. God does not waste any tear, any heartbreak, or any dark night of the soul. He gathers each one and uses them to chisel away everything that hinders our reflection of His image. Look at the cross. The greatest act of love and salvation the world has ever known came through the greatest suffering. It was in the silence of Saturday, between the pain of Friday and the glory of Sunday, that the world held its breath. Nothing looked victorious. Everything appeared lost. But behind that stillness, God was completing a work so massive, so transformative, that eternity would never be the same. What looked like defeat was actually the setup for triumph. In the same way, our darkest seasons may carry the seeds of our greatest breakthroughs. Joseph's betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment were not signs that God had forgotten him. They were stepping stones. Each painful chapter was necessary for the fulfillment of the dream. Each hardship prepared him to steward power with humility, to offer forgiveness instead of vengeance, and to understand the weight of divine responsibility. God used suffering not to harm him, but to prepare him for influence and purpose that would touch countless lives. When confusion clouds your mind and pain grips your heart, remember that the hands holding you are nail-scarred. They know suffering. They are not indifferent. They are gentle, wise, and sovereign. God does not allow storms to break you, but to strengthen you. He does not permit confusion to destroy your faith, but to deepen it. Every moment of struggle is part of a divine blueprint that you may not fully understand now, but one day you will see how every broken piece fit into a masterful design. In the midst of hardship, our call is not to figure everything out, but to remain anchored in trust. Trust that the God who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. Trust that what feels like breaking is actually building. Trust that your pain is not pointless, but pregnant with purpose. For in the unseen realm, God is working, forming and shaping a glory that far outweighs every temporary trial. We often long for quick solutions, immediate relief, and swift fulfillment of our prayers. We naturally seek comfort and ease, assuming that these are the signs of God's blessing and nearness. Yet, God's eyes are set far beyond the temporary. He is not merely arranging a comfortable life for us here and now. He is shaping us for eternity. His greatest concern is not how smooth the road is today, but whether our hearts are being refined for the glory that lasts forever. When we grasp this truth, our perspective begins to shift, and we start to see that God's silence is not distance, but depth, and His seeming delays are not indifference, but design. God does not measure success the way we do. He is not impressed by titles, wealth, or applause. He is looking at the heart. He is searching for those who will trust Him in the dark, who will follow Him when the road is unclear, who will still believe when the promise feels far away. Our temporary comfort is never His highest goal. Our eternal transformation is. He is preparing sons and daughters for an everlasting kingdom, not just giving us a better day, but making us into citizens of heaven. He works not for fleeting ease, but for lasting holiness. A good father does not always give the child what they ask for, but instead what they truly need. Our Heavenly Father is no different. If He delays an answer, if He allows hardship, if He takes us through seasons of pruning, it is because He sees the full picture. He knows what we do not. He sees where the easy path may lead us astray. He understands how temporary victories might cost us eternal strength. So He waits, He withholds. He works in quiet, not because He does not care, but because He cares so deeply that He will not let us settle for less than His best. He did not spare even His own Son from suffering. not because he delighted in the pain, but because he saw the eternal joy and redemption that would come through it. The path of Christ was not one of ease, but one of obedience, surrender, and glory through sacrifice. If we are to be shaped into his image, we too must walk the road of faith that stretches us, purifies us, and lifts our eyes from the temporary to the eternal. The trials we face are not roadblocks, but refining fires. They are the places where heaven carves eternity into our souls. This is why some prayers seem unanswered, why doors remain closed, why breakthroughs take time. It is not punishment, it is protection. It is not rejection, it is refinement. God is forming something in us that comfort alone cannot produce. He is forging a depth of character, a faith that will not be shaken, a joy that is not based on circumstances, and a strength that reflects his glory. He is more interested in making us holy than making us happy in the way the world defines happiness. When we understand that this life is not the end but only the beginning, we start to live with different priorities. We stop asking only for blessings and start asking to be more like him. We stop craving ease and start craving intimacy. We stop looking for fast results and start leaning into deep transformation. The trials of today are shaping us for a tomorrow that will never fade. The struggles of the moment are preparing us for a joy that will never end. What God is doing may not always feel comfortable, but it is always purposeful. And when eternity is our lens, we see that his work, even when hidden, is always good. Faith becomes most alive not when everything is clear, but when everything is hidden. It is easy to trust when the path is bright, when the answers come quickly, when doors open and miracles happen. But the true test of faith, the kind that moves heaven and shapes destinies, is when the blueprint is concealed, when nothing makes sense, and when all you have is the whisper of God's promise echoing in your spirit. This is the kind of faith that pleases God, not faith that demands proof, but faith that trusts his heart even when his hand cannot be traced. God does not often reveal the full picture. He rarely gives us step-by-step instructions or shows us the end from the beginning. Instead, he gives us light for the next step, enough grace for today, and the promise of his presence. He invites us to walk by faith and not by sight. This walk is not always easy. It requires surrender. It demands trust. It means letting go of control, releasing our timeline, and believing that even in the silence, even in the waiting, even in the pain, he is at work. There is something deeply holy about believing when there is nothing in the natural to hold on to. It is in these moments that faith matures. Like gold refined in fire, our trust is purified through trials. We come to know God not only as the giver of blessings, but as the rock in the storm, the anchor in the deep, the shepherd in the valley. Faith becomes more than a concept, it becomes a lifeline. It is not built on feelings, but on the unshakable truth of who God is. Abraham believed God, even when it seemed impossible. He followed a voice without knowing the destination. He hoped against hope. That kind of faith was not built in a day. It was built in the waiting, in the wondering, in the testing. The same is true for us. Each day that we choose to trust without seeing is a brick in the foundation of something eternal. Each moment of surrender becomes part of the structure God is building behind the scenes. God's hiddenness is not a flaw in his plan. It is often the very tool he uses to draw us deeper into himself. If we could see everything, we would rely on sight, not on him. But when we cannot see, we are forced to listen closely, to lean in, to seek his voice in the stillness. This intimacy, born in darkness, often produces the strongest faith, the deepest worship, and the most unshakable confidence. There are times we will feel like we are walking blindfolded through the unknown. The temptation will be to panic, to grasp for control, to doubt the process. But those are the very moments when God calls us to lean not on our own understanding, but to acknowledge him in all our ways, trusting that he is directing our paths. He is not a careless builder. He is precise, intentional, and wise beyond measure. Every act of obedience in the dark is seen by Him. Every silent prayer, every quiet act of trust, every step forward taken without clarity is recorded in heaven. Nothing is wasted. Nothing goes unnoticed. What may feel small or even foolish in the moment is actually powerful in the realm of the Spirit. It is shaping the future. It is paving the way. It is participating in the unseen construction of something glorious. When we walk by faith, even when the blueprint is hidden, we walk in step with eternity, and one day, everything that was unclear will be made plain. Every act of trust will be vindicated. Every sacrifice will be rewarded. The structure God was building all along will be revealed, and we will see that faith was never in vain. There is a time coming when the mysteries we wrestle with today will be fully unveiled. The hidden purposes, the unseen workings, the silent prayers. One day, all will be brought into the light. This promise of revelation is a cornerstone of Christian hope. Though we walk now in partial understanding, looking through a glass dimly, there will come a moment when the veil is lifted and the grand design that God has been weaving behind the scenes will be revealed in breathtaking clarity. We live in an age where uncertainty often shadows our faith. We question why God allows delays, why prayers seem unanswered, why darkness sometimes lingers longer than we wish. Yet we hold fast to the truth that God's timing is perfect and His plans are far beyond our comprehension. What we see as silence or absence is often the calm before a divine unveiling. The one who began a good work in us is faithful to bring it to completion. In that completion lies the revelation of all that God has been building unseen, working out of sight for our ultimate good and His eternal glory. Throughout Scripture, we are reminded that this life is not the final stage of our story. The Apostle Paul speaks of our current knowledge being partial, our understanding limited, but a time will come when we will see face to face. That encounter will remove all confusion, all doubt, all pain. It will illuminate every unanswered question, every hidden detail. The broken pieces of our journey will come together to form a perfect whole. The shadows will retreat before the light of God's glory. Consider the patience of Job, who endured suffering without understanding the reason. At the end of his trial, God did not answer all his questions directly, but reminded him of the vastness of His wisdom and power. Yet Job's faith was not in vain. His story points to the truth that God's hidden purposes have meaning beyond our present grasp, and that faith is rewarded not just in the outcome, but in the perseverance. The day will come when what seemed confusing or cruel will be seen as part of a greater, loving plan. This promise should bring us comfort and strength. We are not left wandering aimlessly in darkness. We are walking toward a moment of divine revelation. The builder behind the scenes is preparing to show us His masterpiece, a work so grand, so intricate, so full of love and purpose that every moment of waiting and every tear shed will pale in comparison to the joy that awaits. Our temporary trials are threads woven into a tapestry that will display God's glory for all eternity. This future unveiling also calls us to patience and trust. While we wait, we are invited to live by faith, holding on to the hope that what is hidden now will one day be gloriously revealed. We may not see the full picture today, but we can rest assured that God's plans are good and that His timing is perfect. He is never late, never careless, never absent. He is the faithful builder who works diligently behind the scenes, and His promise is sure. The curtain will be pulled back. In this assurance we find courage to endure, to keep believing, to keep hoping. Our faith is not foolish. It is the confident expectation of things not yet seen. We are part of a story far greater than ourselves, and though the wait is hard, the revelation will be worth it. When God's grand design is finally unveiled, all will understand why the wait was necessary, why the silence was profound, and why the journey with all its mysteries led to a joy that is eternal and unshakable. As we draw this message to a close, Let us hold firmly to the profound truth that God is actively building something immense and glorious behind the scenes of our lives. Though we may not see it with our physical eyes or understand it with our human minds, His divine handiwork is unfolding with perfect wisdom, timing, and love. Each moment of waiting, each season of challenge, each experience of silence is not empty or meaningless, but is part of a sacred process designed to shape us, prepare us, and position us for the magnificent purposes He has ordained. We have seen that God's work is often hidden, like the roots of a mighty tree, silent but strong, unseen but essential. What looks like delay or silence is actually a time of deep preparation, a divine workshop where God is molding our character, refining our faith, and strengthening our spirits. Even when we walk through pain, confusion, or uncertainty, these are not signs of abandonment but tools of transformation. God's concern is not for our temporary comfort alone, but for our eternal growth and destiny. He calls us to faith that trusts beyond what we see, to believe in His goodness even when the blueprint is hidden, and to remain steadfast in hope, knowing that one day all will be revealed. This is a call to trust the builder of our lives, the master craftsman who holds the whole design and whose plans for us are immeasurably greater than we can imagine. We do not journey alone. His Spirit guides us, strengthens us, and sustains us through every trial and season of waiting. The work He is doing now is preparing us to walk into a future filled with His glory, joy, and peace, a future that far outweighs any momentary suffering or doubt. So let us walk forward with courage and faith, confident that the God who began a good work in us will bring it to completion. Let us hold fast to hope, knowing that our present struggles are shaping us for eternal triumph. Let us be patient in the waiting, joyful in the believing, and unwavering in our trust. The silence is not absence. The delay is not denial. The hidden work is not forgotten. God's hand is upon us, building something massive, something holy, something everlasting. Thank you all for your time, your hearts open to this message, and your willingness to journey in faith together. May you be encouraged to stand firm in your trust of God's perfect timing and loving purpose. May you be reminded that you are never alone in the waiting, never forgotten in the silence, and always held in the hands of a God who sees the end from the beginning. May His peace, which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds as you continue to walk forward in faith. Thank you, and may God bless each of you abundantly as He reveals the magnificent work He is doing in and through your life.